The implications of Israel's ground invasion into Lebanon. Israel, of course, is calling this a limited operation, but can it be contained as a limited operation? And what are the fears that this could spread into a wider regional war? CNN's chief national security analyst and anchor Jim Sciutto is now joining us live from Tel Aviv. Thank you very much, Jim, for speaking with us. So Israel is calling this a limited operation. Their objective is to try and secure the border between Israel and Lebanon in a way that the rocket attacks from Hezbollah stop. But can they do it in a limited operation?
I mean, that's the thing. Limited is in the eye of the beholder, I think you can say, because this is certainly less limited than it was prior in that they are now planning a significant, it seems, ground presence there. Listening to the IDF spokesperson speaking just in the last hour, he took pains, it seemed, to say, listen, we've done raids like this before. We go across, we go after firing positions, etc., and then we leave. He also said they do not plan a long-term occupation of southern Lebanon. That said, their stated goal remains to push Hezbollah back many miles from the border with Israel. The Litani River is often talked as the frontier. That's close to 20 miles back, and that was the frontier as required by the UN Security Council Resolution 1701. To do that, if that remains the goal, that requires pushing far further into southern Lebanon, a number of miles, of course, but also somehow clearing all those tunnels, all those firing positions, all those homes, etc., where the IDF says that Hezbollah forces have stored weapons and been firing inside into northern Israel. So I think Israeli officials being quite careful with their language right now, but when you listen to what the goal of this operation is, that speaks to a more significant operation.
But Jim, even if they were successful in that objective, which is to push Hezbollah back, whether it's 5, 10, 20 miles up north, Hezbollah still has the capability to fire long-range missiles into northern Israel, doesn't it?
Yeah. It does, and that's been one of the issues here, right, is that Hezbollah has built up an enormous arsenal with the aid of Iran of many tens of thousands of missiles, some of them with quite long ranges. And to be clear, Israel via airstrikes says it's been targeting some of those missile storage sites right up to in and around Beirut. Listen, they don't imagine, it seems, that they can reoccupy Lebanon going back to what we saw in the 80s and 90s here. So they want to create some sort of cushion that makes it safer, at least, for those living in northern Israel so that they could return to their homes. But there are, of course, certain missiles with certain ranges that moving 20 miles in would not solve the problem. And, of course, you have the track record here. Israeli forces went into Lebanon in 2006 for a month. And then withdrew, and Hezbollah came back. Israeli forces were in Lebanon from 1982 to 2000, and then they left, and Hezbollah grew. So the track record in terms of not just pushing Hezbollah back, but keeping them back, has not been great. And of course, the question is, what are the lessons that have been learned? Can they apply those lessons?
Is it also possible that Israel, by doing what it's doing, the ground invasion, and of course, last weekend, the killing of Hassan Nasrallah, is also trying to draw Iran into this conflict? And what are the chances that Iran might bite that bait? We're not seeing any evidence to that effect, at least in the last few days. But how long can Iran hold out despite all of these moves from Israel?
Yeah. Listen, it's an open question. Iran, of course, launched a major attack on Israel in April, sending dozens of missiles and drones, though the vast majority of them were shot down not just by Israeli forces, but U.S. forces as well as other partners in the region. But since then, even with the killing of Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran and the killing now of Nasrallah, it seems Iran is keeping its powder dry, as it were, to some frustration, it seems, from its allies Hamas and Hezbollah, making an assessment perhaps of what its own capabilities are. Can it strike Israel reliably and credibly? And what would the cost be? Would that then tempt an Israeli strike directly on Iran, particularly its nuclear facilities? Each player in this conflict right now is making judgments about what can be gained and what it might lose. And it seems, at least for the moment, Iran is calculating they might have more to lose by getting involved than by striking back.
And I want to get your thoughts on the U.S. administration, President Biden's White House. Every time they have said something vis-a-vis their expectation from Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu and his government have gone and done quite the opposite. Whether it was a ceasefire, whether it was attacking Lebanon, whether it is the ground invasion, it seems like, at least in public statements, the two don't seem to be on the same page.
And in private statements, frankly. I mean, the U.S. administration has made two major ceasefire efforts, one in Gaza and one in Lebanon prior to the strike killing Nasrallah on Friday. And in both instances, even from, while U.S. officials will say Hamas in one case, Hezbollah and other parties in the other case certainly had a role to play, but they expressed their frustration as well that the Israeli leader was not sufficiently committed to those efforts. So the fact of the matter is that at this point, it seems that the Israeli Prime Minister calculates he can do what he wants to some degree, despite disagreement with U.S. leaders.
And very quickly, what does this mean for Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel? Of course, he's been under fire, whether it's on the rescue of the remaining hostages, whether it's on the killing of innocent civilians in Gaza, and of course now the invasion into Lebanon, the killing of Hassan Nasrallah. Has all of this sort of politically bought him some more time, strengthened his position domestically in Israel? I believe he's also inducted somebody who used to be a one-time political rival, is now part of his government.
Right. Well, when I was here in the wake of October 7th, there was a lot of talk in Israel as to how long Netanyahu could last. That talk is gone for now. It seems like he has, and some of this is reflected in the public polling, enough support now to continue, not clear for how long, but many Israelis view, for instance, these most recent strikes against Hezbollah as successful, and there are political benefits, it seems, from that for the Israeli Prime Minister.
All right, Jim Sciutto, live for us tonight in Tel Aviv. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us with your thoughts and perspective.